Call the City Council workshop meeting for Monday, June 10th to order. Do we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember White.
Here.
Councilmember Cook.
Here.
Councilmember Fairley.
Here.
Councilmember Osborne. Here. And Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No presentations. We have discussion item A, transportation element.
Nope, turn it back on, sorry.
Dude, what's up?
What's that?
You gotta pull the cord over the last
Oh,
one.
yeah.
No, it was. Okay.
I know what he's.
What
It'll be
generation is
real
he?
easy to go back.
It's Monday.
Test. Is this working?
It is, you can hear it.
Oh, okay. Can you all see the presentation on your screen, or is it blank?
Still late. I can see you. So I gotta go
Here.
Well, Canadian Council, Cyrus Oswald with that one again, helping the city out with the comprehensive plan update. And I'm here to give an update, particularly related to the transportation items and next steps to adoption. Some of this presentation will look familiar again. Briefly, I'm going to go through requirements for the comprehensive plan update, transportation items in question this evening, and then go over generally the project status and next steps. What's required through the Growth Management Act, or the GMA? There are 5 required elements: land use, housing, capital facilities, utilities, and transportation, which we'll be discussing tonight. Algona is doing those 5 elements plus natural environment and parks and recreation. There are several other requirements through the Growth Management Act, including public engagement, various analyses, a lot of other processes that you have to do and document to some degree. Looking at Algona's comprehensive plan, there are 7 chapters that are on the left-hand side here. You have seen all of these except for the transportation element, which you received before today. And then there are several appendices, of which many of you have seen, and the rest I'll go over briefly. Capital improvement plan is largely done and drafted. It's kind of waiting in the wings, if you will. The traffic analysis was included in this packet, as I understand it. The SEPA, or State Environmental Policy Act process, has to be done after all of the other items are wrapped up, so we know what the final environmental impact will look like. The multimodal analysis is included in your packet as well, which I'll touch back on in a second. Public engagement summary has to be completed still. The implementation plan has been fully drafted, it needs to be edited and reviewed and all that. The Sound View checklist, which was an item that I discussed briefly last time, we looked into it, and it's not required and not really applicable for Algona's comprehensive plan, so we won't be doing it. The transportation improvement plan has also been included in your packet, as I understand it. PSRC certification checklist is done. And then the last item there is the feature of multimodal analysis, which has just been completed this past Thursday, I believe, and today I went through and integrated it into the current multimodal analysis and transportation element. So that information is not included with your packet right now, as I understand it. However, when the Planning Commission looked through these materials on Thursday, they recommended the transportation element and all these relevant appendices, with the recommendation that this information from the future multimodal analysis be included in that, if that hopefully makes sense. We can talk about all these items in further detail during the discussion, obviously. Generally speaking, the transportation element is a summation and kind of future-looking part of all of this. It looks at what transportation looks like now and what the city wants it to look like in 2044. And then these various appendices are either the technical analyses that says where we're at and what it will likely look like in 20 years, or the specific items of how we get to where we want to be in 2044, the plan, that is. So on the city staff and consultant side, there are a couple items left. Obviously, have to continue to present materials to you all for adoption. Have to finish summarizing public engagement, finish those other appendix materials that I went over, perform the SEPA checklist and public noticing process, and then finally work with Department of Commerce and others to get the plan certified. Why am I here? What is staff seeking from council? Generally, and I'll reiterate this time and time again, staff is here to support the council in making informed decisions. It's your plan, it's your community, you know it best. I'm just here to answer questions as I can. Specifically this evening, I'd love to get any input on the transportation element and these appendices, whether that's their content or their readability. Additionally, this input is your first touch on this stuff. Feel free to email me with it at any point if you're reading through this, on your Sunday afternoon, you say, hey, there's a typo here. Just mark it and send it over to me. Ultimately, staff will be seeking adoption of these items from council. And then one more time, it's your community, it's your plan. I'm just here to support you in that process. Now I'll dive into what these specific items look like. The transportation element, again, broadly is just looking at a summary of what transportation looks like in the city of Algona today, and then what it should look like in 2044. It goes over a variety of different modes of transportation: car, bike, pedestrian, mass transit, bus system. And you'll notice that in your packet there are there's two sections, I believe, in your packet that are highlighted with placeholders for future multimodal level of service analysis. Staff was waiting on the transportation consultant to send over future analysis. Just got that on Thursday, and I just integrated it into this element today. So obviously that's not what is in front of you right now, but the next iteration that you receive, it'll be in there. And again, this element was recommended for adoption from Planning Commission, barring these updates, this information. Appendix F, which I believe is also in your packet, is the traffic analysis. This looks at how cars get around the city right now, and then without anything, I believe, how they get around the city in 2044, and recommended improvements and kind of future level of service. Appendix I is another technical analysis that looks at more modes of transportation, so not just cars, but also via foot, via bike, via mass transit. Again, technical analysis looks at what level of service is today and what expected level of service is 2044. Final appendix is the Transportation Improvement Plan, which looks at all of the different projects the city expects to do in the next 6 years, I believe. And what that project is, what type of project, various details. This looks at how the transportation management in the city will improve through the future. Looking at the Planning Commission versus City Council, just last Thursday, the Planning Commission kind of cleared their queue of stuff by recommending the transportation element and all these various appendices to you all. So now you all have all of the elements drafted out basically, and the recommended adoption date that I would recommend to you all for these elements and appendices is the end of July. I believe we went over this somewhat in depth last time, but that's because PSRC and the Department of Commerce have a relatively involved review process, and if they were to give back comments at the end of that review process, then staff would have to edit the plan to integrate those comments, and then it would have to go back through adoption for you all, and then it would have to get certified again. So it's sort of this iterative process. Thus, I recommend this July 31st date. Thank you. That's what I prepared, and I'd love to answer any questions or discuss anything about the transportation.
Anybody have any questions? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion item B.
All right.
You're up, Chief.
Yeah, gotta reconnect the screen. He knocked me off. So give me just a minute.
Sorry, Chief. Rest that.
So while I'm getting ready for that, take a minute, look through the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint's based on Zach and I's research on speed, what we can do with the speed limits here in town. And as you'll see, we'll talk about the model traffic ordinance, which we've adopted by reference. I want to focus on that tonight. And then I know the council also asked me to take a look at e-bikes. So I found some interesting things on e-bikes, and we'll talk a little bit about them at the end of the presentation. Sorry, no, it's not connected. Well, while I'm waiting for that to boot up again, okay, while I'm waiting for that to boot up, first, you guys, I got you one of these. Everybody has a long. I've got 2 extra, just enough for the people in the audience, if you guys want them. So,
Thank you, Chief.
and then if you want one, I have, I can use my computer. So, model traffic ordinance. The model traffic ordinance is a comprehensive compilation of sound, uniform traffic laws to serve as a guide for local authorities. The purpose of the model traffic ordinance is to encourage highway safety and uniform traffic laws. Yeah, it's not connected, so my apologies. So I'll keep trying to figure it out here. Okay, cool. This provision, the model traffic ordinance, is actually a WAC, Washington Administrative Code, and was created by the RCW. And as you can see on the third slide, the first section of our traffic code, 10.01.010, we adopt the model traffic ordinance by reference. Okay, speed limits in the model traffic ordinance. Provisions of the model traffic ordinance adopted by reference to various Washington statutes governing speed restrictions. One of the adopted statutes is 4661-400, which establishes the following in the model traffic ordinance: 25 miles per hour on city and town streets, 50 miles per hour on county roads, 60 miles per hour on state highways. Okay, so to answer your question, last council meeting, Councilmember Cook, if it's not posted, it's 25 miles an hour in the city because we adopted the model traffic ordinance. As you can see on the next slide, the default speed limits for cities can be altered from those set in the model traffic ordinance by adopting local jurisdictional action. Right? We can decrease the speed limit. We can increase the speed limit, but not more than 60 miles an hour. And we can decrease the speed limit, but not less than 20 miles an hour. So continued, when they can be altered. Local authorities and respective jurisdictions shall determine by an engineering traffic study or engineering and traffic investigation the proper maximum speed for all arterial streets and should declare a reasonable and safe maximum speed limit there within. So one of the streets we're going to talk about tonight is Algona Boulevard, and it is designated in city code as an arterial route. So there's a special set of circumstances where we have to contact the city engineer, make that determination, and go through and, in order for us to alter the speed limit on Algona Boulevard. Now, other streets, like the ones that run east and west, city streets, we can adopt those by just council action. We don't need to consult the engineer because they're not considered arterial routes. So they're just considered city streets. Does that make sense to everybody? Any altered speed limit had herein before is authorized shall be effective when appropriate signs are given notice. Right? So when we adopt something, we have to put it on signs, we have to give a grace period, but it becomes effective, 5 days, Jessica? After the council adopts it. Any alterations to the maximum speed limits on state highways within incorporated cities or towns by local authorities shall not be effective until such alterations have been approved by the Secretary of Transportation. So we don't have any of those, but those are some of the things that we can do. So the next slide is 1040.010. The speed limit on all streets within an incorporated speed limit shall be 25 miles per hour, except as this chapter 1020 of this code declares and determines upon the basis of engineering and traffic investigation that certain speed limits shall be applicable on specific streets or in certain areas in which event shall be unlawful for any person to drive a vehicle at a speed in excess of any speed so declared within signs are placed and given notice thereof. So that is your code. And basically it says, if it's not posted in town now, it's 25 miles an hour. If it's posted and designated an artillery route, that's the sign, that's the street it is. Is everybody tracking with me so far? So the next slide has a list of the streets that are identified as arterial routes. The portion of First Avenue lying east of the railroad tracks, 35 miles per hour. Ellingson Road, 35 miles per hour. Algona Boulevard, 35 miles per hour. Pacific Avenue, 35 miles per hour. Boundary Boulevard, 30 miles per hour. Seattle Boulevard, 20 miles per hour. Ward Street, 15 miles per hour. This is the one exception, but in our code, this Ward Street was grandfathered in before they did the 20 mile an hour minimum. And so it was grandfathered in because we didn't change our code after that. We had already adopted the model traffic ordinance, so 15 miles an hour is adopted. Unless this council wants to change it, and then it could never be lowered to 15 again. That makes sense. Washington Boulevard, 15 miles per hour. Another one that was grandfathered in prior to. Chicago Boulevard, 15 miles per hour.
Is that Seattle Boulevard south?
Yes, Seattle Boulevard south from First to the city limits is 20 miles an hour. Correct. Those are the ones that previous councils decided to take action on and go through the process and lower by name. Conclusion and recommendations. So after Zach, myself, I consulted Stacy. We're going to have a follow-up meeting based on the RCW and the corresponding provisions of the model traffic ordinance. The city can lower the speed limit on Algona Boulevard and arterial from 35 to 25, as this body requested last council meeting, as long as it supports this action with an engineering and traffic investigation. So the definition of an engineering and traffic investigation is we're going to talk to the city engineer. We're going to do, we have plenty of traffic ticket data to support a lot of people speeding on Algona Boulevard. And our recommendation is to lower it to 25 miles an hour. Then the other part that I was telling you about, the city can reduce the speed limits on non-arterial within particular residential areas to 20 miles an hour without necessarily performing an engineering and traffic investigation. So staff's recommendation on streets that go east to west that have no sidewalk that are limited in width to, we're gonna recommend that we adopt that all those streets go to 20 miles an hour. And it's because there's not a lot of shoulder, there's not a lot of place for pedestrians and bicycles to go. They all have to share the roadway, and the lower the speed limit, the better. I just was reading in the paper, the city of Ruston is doing the exact same thing we are. They're lowering their non-arterial streets because they have a lot of pedestrian traffic over there, and they cannot support 25 miles an hour and guarantee pedestrian safety. So we're not the only ones having this discussion about that. I'll stop there before I get into e-bikes. Is there any questions so far? And I apologize, I couldn't get this thing going again.
Changing the speed limit, does that affect this transportation?
I think that,
Because there was things about, you know, I read something about the travel time and stuff like that. We lowered this speed limit, is that gonna directly adverse?
I would say it would affect the future level of service predicted, but not being a transportation expert, I couldn't say exactly how. But if you were to change the speed limit, I would expect differences in travel times, yeah.
I know we're only a mile from one end to the other, I don't. My question is I don't wanna, all the work that you guys have done, us come in here at the last minute and change the speed limit, and you have to throw it all up and redo it.
I'm coming at it from a public safety perspective, and I don't think it's gonna throw all their work out. Is it gonna alter some response times, or some travel times? Yes. But again, my job is to be in charge of public safety here, and so I'm coming at it from a public safety perspective.
Oh, I'm all in favor of lowering the speed limit, I'm just,
Well, that's a plan too, that's not an ordinance or a law, right? So we come up with this thing and it talks about travel times and all those, that's a plan. And if the city changes as we go through the years, then I think we're not talking.
But I'll definitely get an answer for you when we have a follow-up engineer with the traffic engineer and Stacy.
I would add also, I bet that even if you were to redo all the analysis that DKS did, that it would not alter the final goals, policies, transportation improvement plan, and all the other recommendations. So it might be a moot point.
So is it the council's direction to bring an ordinance forward?
I've got a couple of questions. So is the city gonna post strategic locations, speed limit in Algona is 20 miles an hour, less posted?
It should be on each city limit, and I've noticed that the compressions, I'll do a better job of policing that up and make sure it gets posted.
And the other thing, just keep in mind, I read in here also that we can change it back within a year without a study. So
Correct. Correct.
too much
Yep, that's accurate. So again, these slides came from Zach's legal analysis and my research. So I'm pretty confident on the information. So would you like me to start preparing an ordinance?
what is the consensus?
I say yes.
I just wish we'd have more public input on this one as well. I know it's for safety. I get it. But, yeah. So, I mean, we could start the ordinance preparation and stuff.
Give them 3 touches. It gives council plenty of time to show up, or people to show up and talk about it.
I think maybe absolutely put it inside the newsletter or something. Saying we need their input. Actually, I don't know.
Maybe do a void alert.
And
Maybe do a void alert
Yes.
as we're going through this.
Sure. Because I think this would be, if we have all the flag from the stop sign.
Actually, and the mayor can attest to this, the conversations that I've had with people along Algona Boulevard are all in favor of lowering to 25. There are, you know, and I know there are people that are very boisterous about it. I have not heard the voices on keep it where it's at.
If it was just Algona Boulevard,
Mm-hmm.
I would say agree to that, but we're naming all the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And we're affecting all the limits on all the
I
streets.
mean, we can surely do it in piecemeal. You want to start with lowering Algona Boulevard and then work our way through on several ordinances? We
We
can
would
do
just
it.
love to hear from people.
Gotcha.
So,
I just think for us, pedestrian wise, it's getting summer, bikes, they're gonna close the interurban trail, and the detour route is through 4th Avenue, back over to Celery, and, you know, we're gonna have people that use the trail that are gonna be on our city streets, and I'm thinking about that and the added, you know, pedestrian. So, again, I work for you guys, I'm just here if you ask for it, and, we'll move forward however you guys like. You know, if you want us to prepare our ordinance and go 3 touches and make sure we advertise it, we can do that.
I would be in favor of that.
Okay. Now, e-bikes. This is going to be a lot easier and a lot less controversial, I think. So, in 2018, the state of Washington created an RCW and adopted a definition and standards for e-bikes in the state of Washington. So I'm going to read the e-bike definition, RCW 4604169. Electric assisted bicycles means a bicycle with 2 or 3 wheels, a saddle, fully operated pedals for human propulsion, and an electric motor. The electric assisted bicycle electric motor must have a power output no more than 750 watts. So this gets to your, hey, it can't be over 49 cc's. So the 750 watts is what transfers into the electric world. So, and that'll get important here in a minute. 750 watts, being capable of propelling the device at a speed more than 20 miles per hour on a level ground, and incapable of further increasing the speed of the device when human power alone is used to propel the device beyond 20 miles per hour. So, e-bike has to have pedals. It can't go over 20 miles an hour in some circumstances on flat level ground. All right, so the next RCW classified, there's 3 classifications of e-bikes. So you have class 1. The electric assisted bicycle means an electric assisted bicycle in which the motor provides assistance only when the rider is pedaling and ceases to provide assistance when the bicycle reaches a speed of 20 miles per hour. So like mine and my wife's e-bikes, when you stop pedaling, it stops working. So ours are a class 1 e-bike and they do not go over 20 miles an hour. Class 2, electric assisted bicycle means an electric assisted bicycle in which the motor may be used exclusively, so it has a throttle, to propel the bicycle and is not capable of providing assistance when the bicycle reaches a speed of 20 miles per hour. So you can either pedal it, put it in pedal assist mode, or you can use a throttle, class 2. Finally, class 3, electric assisted bicycle means an electric assisted bicycle in which the motor provides assistance only when the rider is pedaling and ceases to provide assistance when the bicycle reaches a speed of 28 miles per hour and is equipped with a speedometer. So there's your 3 classes. To sum it up, regulations on e-bikes cannot be ridden on sidewalks by RCW, cannot be operated on a fully controlled limited access highway, so it can't be on 167 with it. They may be operated most places bicycles are allowed, such as multi-purpose trails or bicycle lanes, provided motorized vehicles are not prohibited under local law. So King County had a ban on them, and they recently lifted it and changed their bicycle ordinance to allow motorized class 1 and class 2 on their trails. So, but local jurisdictions, for instance, when I was doing my research, do not ride an e-bike in Spokane Valley. They're banned. You can ride them on the streets where it's 25 miles an hour or less. Everywhere else, it's banned. So You know, and then you go to the other side of the spectrum, which we're going to talk about, which I really like, is Bremerton. Bremerton's ordinance is really comprehensive, and it kind of addresses the moped issue that we run into every summer. So, but no driver's license are needed on e-bikes when the operator is 16 years of age or older. Persons under 16 may not operate an electric assisted bicycle. No license required for the bike on city streets. So it's just like a bicycle. You don't need to get a license. Equipment requirements for e-bikes: 2 or 3 wheels, saddle seat, operational pedals, electric motor with less than 750 watts, do not go over 25 miles per hour, must comply with all laws and regulated to the use of bicycle helmets. So, to answer Councilmember Fairley's question from last time, if it's over 750 watts, which the bike you described is truly over 750 watts, then all rules of the road like a motorcycle apply. It's a motorcycle in the eyes of the law. Does that make sense? Okay, just like a moped, if it's over 49 cc or 50 cc's, it's a motorcycle, correct? And so all rules apply. So, talking to Zach, doing some research, the Bremerton City Code. They've adopted a comprehensive code, and I could have made this presentation really long, but by going through each section of this, but things I want to call out. Duty to obey traffic control. The negligent operation. So it has a definition of negligent operation. So even if they meet all the rules of the road, it's 750 watts or under, if they're operating it like a numbskull, we can stop them for it. Negligent operation of an e-bike. And moped. So, prohibited areas, we can definitely designate areas where we don't want them to be. In Bremerton, there's one trail. Kirkland has an ordinance. There's one trail. I think they call it the Cross City Trail, where they ban them. All other trails, it's allowed. It's just that Cross City Trail has too much jogger and foot traffic, so they ban it in one specific place. So, this is one I really love. Parental responsibility. So it's actually the parents can receive a ticket if their kids are acting a goof on the trail on an e-bike. So I really like this one. So minimum age and hours of operation. So in Bremerton, you can't operate it after a certain period of time at night. It's only from this time to this time on their trips. Right? Like I said, Spokane Valley, don't go try to ride an e-bike in Spokane Valley. But other places, same thing. They limit the age and where and when they can ride the e-bike. Brakes required. I don't know if you've ever ridden an e-bike, but I would not get on one without brakes. So this is somebody that rides them 4 times a week. So noise. Obviously, they have a decibel for noise. And no more than 1 person permitted towing or being pulled is not allowed. So they can't have somebody riding with them on the e-bike, and they can't tow or pull somebody. So violation of the penalty is a class 1 civil infraction for the first offense, and then it goes up from there. So conclusion. So staff's recommendation. You have 2 recommendations. We can ease into this and adopt state law by reference on e-bikes, or we can come up with something comprehensive like Bremerton, or you can ban it like Spokane Valley, or a hybrid thereof. Any questions? I do love it. Yes, sir, Councilmember White.
First
How
off,
about the 15-year-old that wants to ride or is going to ride?
So, again, you have parent responsibility, and as RCW, the state law says, no one under 16 can ride an e-bike.
just that 15, how you know he's not 16
Right,
without pulling him over.
correct.
And he doesn't have any ID or license.
Oh, that's
Correct.
right. Yeah.
You said certain decibels. Are these loud? They can actually make noise?
Nah, mine's not.
Is it like over 15 decibels or what?
Right.
It's pretty quiet.
Yeah, they're very quiet.
My question, that was a statement, my question to you is, we have electric scooters, we have electric one-wheel things, I see these guys fly up and down the road.
So in the definition section of the Bremerton one, it covers them all. So does Spokane Valley. They call them electric conveyances. The two-wheel vehicle is called a single axle electric conveyance by definition.
Okay, and whose jurisdiction is the interurban trail now?
Well, right now, we have a memorandum of understanding we enforce
How
in
long?
our city limits.
When does that expire?
There's not an expiration on it.
Because I know in Kent, King County took over
Mm-hmm.
the jurisdiction of the interurban. I'm just curious if they did that here or in Auburn or.
To my knowledge, they haven't done it in Auburn or Algona. Because if you go, I ride to Kent and back. First off, Kent's trails are phenomenal. Every day I ride to Kent and back at least 4 times. You have to. Auburn still cites their AMC code, their municipal codes, on what's allowed and what's not allowed on the trail. You get to Kent, and they're all gone. So maybe that's why. Great sign that says "Welcome to the city, Kent." No, it looks good. The trail looks really good.
So Auburn bans those type of things in their jurisdiction?
So Auburn does not have an ordinance,
Okay.
but they have AMC like don't litter, share the road with bicycles, and there's AMCs listed along the trail.
Okay. Well, I'd like to see, if we're gonna do the e-bikes, I'd like to see the scooters, I'd like to see.
Sure.
Anything that's electric that they're actually using the streets. I see it like every morning, this guy just turned down First Avenue, leaning into 35, just going this way, so.
And again, that's a motorcycle in the eyes of the law.
Is it one wheel, so?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So is it the wish of the council that we move forward with some, an ordinance and to include the definitions of the one-wheel vehicle, the one-axle vehicle, the Segway, right? I would like to incorporate mopeds in there if I could, please, because I deal with that every summer. So, is that okay?
Yeah, it sounds like.
More towards the Bremerton, side of things, that really get those dialed
Okay.
in to make it fit, I think.
All right.
Yeah, the more information that, whatever makes it easier for you to enforce, I mean, where there's no.
Zach's currently doing the research on Bremerton. I gave him 2, Kirkland and Bremerton. He's doing the research on Bremerton right now. So.
Yeah, and to reiterate, in Kent, the police still do have an MOU with, or an ILA with King County to do police stuff.
Correct.
But the
Same
maintenance,
for us.
itself was to take over by Kent.
Is that something that when they redo the trail, you think they're going to come at us with?
I don't know, that would have to come at your level, they'll be contacting you, yes, on that. So,
It's definitely something to watch out
yeah,
for.
I'm glad you got those bollards taken out of there, so, and painted. So,
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay, audience participation.
Here you go.
The city council encourages public participation during meetings of the city council and welcomes your comments. This time is set aside for you to speak to the city council on any issue. The council ordinarily takes non-agenda matters under advisement before taking action. You are also invited to comment on action items as they are considered during the meeting. Individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each in addressing the city council. When addressing the council, please speak clearly, audibly, and state your name and address for the record. Is there anybody who would like to speak?
Rick Connell, 340 Milwaukee Boulevard South. And I'd just like to leave here with a clear understanding of what direction the city's going to go in. with the speed limits in the city. Algona Boulevard is a separate deal from my personal interest, but I certainly understand where all that's going and agree with it. It's the east-west going to 20 miles per hour. How does the city council feel about that? There should be maybe, as you said, some public input, maybe put it in with the water bill. But how long? Because summer's coming.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of foot traffic and e-bikes and cars and all the other electric conveyances are out there. Yeah, I'm really curious. I just want to be clear. I think it's fantastic that the city council and the mayor and the police chief have done this much in such a short period of time since it was first brought up at a council meeting. But where exactly are we right now? Are you gonna have the police chief start working on a speed limit ordinance for the east-west non-arterials? In addition to, I think you're gonna do it for Algona Boulevard, but the other ones were.
Yeah, as Councilman Member Thomas said, we'd like to get some residential input, and we're gonna put it through the Voyant, and which is the telephone notification, and probably put it in the next newsletter, and we'll start with the process of writing the ordinances and wait for public input and
How
3
long
meetings.
public input period do you think?
Well,
So
3
you have,
meetings,
you have 3 council meetings, you have 3 touches.
so that's 6 weeks, 7 weeks total, depending upon how the weeks line up.
But you're gonna have the ordinance written up so that at the end of that period, should the council decide.
We'll have the ordinance written up so the public will know what we're proposing.
Okay.
And then we can get public input on it, and, you know, maybe everybody comes in and says, hey, they love it, and it goes through. I mean, me personally, I live on Seattle Boulevard South, the speed limit's 20 miles an hour. The road's 17 feet wide, and 2 cars can't pass without driving on the shoulder. And there's a ton of kids walking up and down the street, and e-bikes and scooters, and I mean, the whole 9 yards, mini bikes even, which are definitely going faster than the 20 miles an hour. Seattle Boulevard is posted 20. It's been, since I moved to town in '96, it's been 20. So, I have no problem personally with the 20, but we have to take every citizen's input, so.
Sure.
And then 25 on Algona Boulevard sounds like a real good idea.
Wow, isn't that something? Really?
So,
I'm just curious, I just wanna be clear. I talked to my neighbors, everybody except for one person, everybody likes the idea. I'd like to add people with licensed off-road dune buggies. If they're licensed to operate on the street, they still have to follow the laws, they can't speed around. But yeah, I just, personally, I wanna make sure I understand what my expectations should be with what the city council's doing and what they're, you think in about 7 weeks, this should be a decision time?
you know, if there's a lot of input and we have to, you know, it might go 4 meetings. I mean, you know, but no ordinance is passed without going 3 meetings. Okay, so the first meeting would be 2 weeks from now, and then 2 weeks and 2 weeks, or if the calendar plays right.
I know our desire as council is probably to do something about the speed limit, but our desire is also to work for the people that elected us.
Oh, yeah, sure, no, I
So we'd like to get
understand.
as much input as we can, even if we have to go door to door. Second Avenue North, I've been trying to get that speed limit road for years and years and years, over a decade.
Here's a chance, right here.
And, here's the chance, yeah, you're right. I don't see anybody on my block complaining about that.
Right.
But there's not much difference in 20 and 25. So there's people that do over 25 on that short dead end road. They speed down there, oh, it's a dead end, they speed back out on the other one. So,
His brother might
You're
be.
still gonna get those outliers that, they don't look at their speedometers when they're going anywhere. So,
Yeah, and then I'd be curious how you're gonna enforce. You know, you guys are working out there overtime already, as it is.
yeah.
So, it's curious.
And this just gives us that tool that we need to establish the law of the speed limits.
I think from a police chief standpoint, what we do, if the council, if this vote passes, I think a lot of public education mixed in with a lot of enforcement, but I think we just blast it out there and it sends a message that, hey, we're taking this very seriously. And, we do just a media campaign, let people know that speeding in Algona is gonna, the word's starting to get out. You'll see in your council report to me, 398 traffic stops just in May.
Yeah.
So we're out there hitting it pretty hard, so.
Well, I know when I first moved to town, it was, don't speed.
Exactly.
You're 5 miles up an hour over, you're getting pulled over, and I can attest to that.
Yep.
And I have no problem with that. I learned my lesson. Anybody online?
Don't believe so, no.
Meeting adjourned at 6:49.